Let's come to order. Welcome to our work session. Questions on the agenda? Or the consent agenda?
It's a long one.
One question I had, and you've answered this before, I can't remember the answer, on the supplements when it says NTE on the amount, what's that?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed, okay. Which it just keeps them from coming back multiple times, is that the idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And if they do exceed, we put them on the list again.
okay. Anybody have any questions on any of that? Aaron?
And where it says school funds versus a booster organization, that's just gate receipts, right? Largely.
Isn't that it, Jeff? Yeah.
Or in some instances, for a non-revenue sport, it could be through funds the sport is raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? So 7 we'll have tomorrow,
And 8 we'll have tomorrow.
and 9,
9 we'll have tomorrow.
and what about 10?
10, I suggest we do it tomorrow
Yeah.
too.
Okay,
We have some good news on writing examination, and it's, people have put a lot of time and effort into improving, and we'll give a quick update on that. 11, textbook adoption for a book not on the state list. The instruction department is requesting approval for local adoption of textbooks not on contract and the rules, regulations, minimum standards for which no textbook is included in the official list of textbooks under section 1.02 program selection. And we'll recommend that, to approve the following textbooks not included on the state adoption list. Latin for the new Millennium Level 3 by Helen Detmer, published by the publishers, 2012, 4th edition. And the Tennessee Bridge Math. And that's all due to that expansion of needed math offerings. Pretty much a remedial offering, didn't it, Don, to help kids prepare?
Except fourth year math.
Yeah.
okay. Any discussion on that one?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is Latin making a comeback?
It never really left, but I mean, there's not too much of a demand for Latin, however.
My
some-
cousin taught it at,
Wow.
at Central for like 40-something years, and but it was just all downhill, you know, when I was big enough to remember it. And I just
think
wondered
we-
if it was something I was missing.
Do we have it in every school? I think we do. We're pretty close to it.
Pretty much there,
Yeah.
still, still a few.
Yeah. But there's not, that's one of those courses, there's typically, you don't have 30 kids in there. But, it's needed. But with this Tennessee Bridge Math, and I'll move on, I think we were talking earlier, kid would probably just go and take Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, then Tennessee Bridge Math, if they don't go to Advanced Math, Trig, Calculus, or something like that. So that'd be their 4th math. Special course request. The instruction department is requesting permission to make an application to offer credit for special courses under the following guidelines. Rule 520-1-3-.052A. Local school systems may offer special courses not listed in 520-1-3-.06 on an experimental basis. Ministry of Education must approve each course in advance each year. After 3 years, course may become permanent part of the local middle school upon approval by the State Board of Education. Middle school students completing High School 101 will receive a half CTE credit for high school. And we'll recommend that you approve Rutherford County make application for the following courses to be offered in the named school in 2012-13. High School 101, third year request for Oakland Middle and Whitworth County.
Any discussion? Aaron?
How has enrollment been the first 2 years?
Mr. Odom?
It's more of a your middle school's more of a self-contained environment, so your kids that might not be in band, might be in some other area, it does help them with scheduling, but it's an overview of different types of CTE courses that might be doing, so it's basically based upon the schedule, but there's plenty of students. It's not as much as pure elective as you find in high school.
I would assume that there's a third-year request for these schools just simply because they're new schools. Blackman Middle School, Siegel Middle School already have these in place, do
Many
they
of
not?
them, many of them do have that.
Okay, 13.
Facilities, Browns Chapel Elementary School outdoor pavilion. Principal Kelly Goostrey has requested permission to construct a 24 by 30 outdoor pavilion on Browns Chapel Elementary School campus. Eagle Scout Troop 374 and volunteer community members will construct the pavilion under the supervision of the Eagle Scout Tyler Allen Key and his father. I might also say that Mr. Clardy will be overseeing that too. The pavilion will be constructed adjacent to the playground in the fenced-in area at no cost to the board with concrete floor, pressure-treated lumber, truss roof framing, and metal roof. And we're recommending that you allow the Eagle Scout Troop 374 to do that.
Discussion?
Wonder over the years how much these Eagle Scout projects, how much money that they donated in these type,
I mean, I know it's a good question. Since I've been here, there've been multiple Eagle Scout projects. This might be the biggest one they've taken on though, if I recall.
I mean, they've done outdoor theater or amphitheaters outside and walkways.
Yes, they have.
Just amazing.
This is a big project.
Yeah,
I mean,
24 by 30 pavilion is.
with concrete, I mean, it's an expensive endeavor. Okay, B,
Train HVAC renewal program. Rutherford County Schools has several pieces of Train HVAC equipment in our schools that are nearing the end of their useful life. The Engineering and Construction Department requested a proposal from Train Corporation to repair and re-warranty these units. Train renewal services fit these guidelines with both repair and a 5-year warranty. Schools that would benefit the renewal program are Buchanan Elementary, Christiana Middle, Christiana Elementary, Eagleville, McFadden, Siegel High, Smyrna Primary, Thurman Francis, Walter Hill Elementary, and Wilson Elementary. Eagleville's 2 main compressors are well beyond their life and in need of repair this summer to be ready for the 2012-13 school year. The estimated cost per compressor is $29,734. Engineering will start the program with Eagleville and fund it from the 2012-13 maintenance budget. The rest of the schools on the list will be prioritized according to the percent of useful life to be refurbished in the coming years. And we'll recommend that you approve using Train renewal services for the repair and re-warranty of existing Train equipment. And the program will start with Eagle School to be funded through the 2012-13 maintenance budget.
discussion.
Wouldn't it be ironic if they worked on the Siegel High unit and all the noise was abated after they worked on it?
What'd you say? Wouldn't it be unusual?
Ironic.
Ironic. I think it'd be some other than ironic.
There's several adjectives that would fit, it does happen. Other discussion? C,
Siegel High School sports lights. Mr. Nolan has requested permission to install 6 lights at Siegel High School on an existing stadium light pole to light the parking area for late summer and early fall band practice. The lights will be focused on the parking lot across from the stadium. A neighbor, Mr. Hooper, who could be affected by the lights, has been contacted and is in agreement with the installation. Lights will be installed by S&W Contracting Company at a cost of $7,190 and funded by the Band Booster Club at no cost to the board. We'll recommend that you do that.
discussion. Okay, 14,
General purpose school budget amendments. One, this revenue amendment has a net increase of $846,833 in the 2011-12 revenues. The increases in local sales tax, $1,650,000, is largely offset by a reduction in BEP growth funds of $1,260,000. The other increases and decreases reflect better estimates of where those revenues will come from. The amendment also increases fund balance by $722,131 and adds an additional $124,702 in expenditures. Most of the expenditures in the Board of Education Function 72310 and cover the cost of the superintendent search, additional funds being transferred to the liability insurance fund, and additional trustees commission. And we're recommending that you amend an additional $846,833 in 2011-12 revenues, an additional $124,702 in expenditures, and to increase unassigned funds by $722,131 as presented.
Okay, discussion.
What are the circumstances that the BEP growth funds are reduced that much? What, it wasn't student population, was it?
Yeah, it's just, the enrollment just wasn't what we thought, right, Jeff?
That is solely based, the state, and it varies. This year, they are paying growth funds if you grew by more than 0.6%. Since last year, we were pretty well holding at 2. I budgeted based on 2% growth. We came in more 1.5 to 1.6. So, yeah, we didn't get as much just because of the growth.
What's this bring our fund balance to, Jeff?
We will be at 13.3 million. That's, you know, it's another
Well, how
700,000.
How are we going to get to 18 million?
We're unspent.
We're accumulating money for unspent money.
Right. And we may have some more revenue. I tried to be conservative in these numbers.
So we basically, in our discussion with the mayor and budget and hell, they had told, they were pretty confident we'd get to 18 million, which would allow us to fund our budget without a tax increase. So we still got a ways to go.
But this is a good
Yeah,
piece of it.
yeah, it is.
Other discussion? Okay.
Two, staff, this staffing amendment reallocates $45,393 from already budgeted labor in 2021 in benefits in order to fund 2 vacation payouts and additional scheduling time for the school attendance clerks who are working with a new scheduling module. The other line item increases to make sure the staffing lines are fully funded for the year. $47,414 in already budgeted labor and benefits are being reduced in order to the increases. No new funds are being spent, and we'll recommend that you amend that money.
Discussion. Okay.
Other expenditures, $499,010 in other expenditures covered by this amendment are all within major function and use no new funding. The major items are $70,000 and $71,100-499. More purchases are better recorded here than in equipment. $80,784 in Fund 71,300-448 vocational textbooks. This is an adoption year. $58,250 in other student support contract services. This cleans up expenditures between this line and governmental services. Our athletic trainers have been moved to this line. The funding already in 72,130 for them was enough to cover the additional security charges the schools are paying. And we did have to up the amount for security pursuant to the meeting we have with the Sheriff's Department. It was a just increase, but so we have had to pay a little more for that. And $35,000 in special ed contracts, a legal settlement, and $134,100 for reallocating maintenance repairs and services to various line items as they were used this year. And we'll recommend that you amend the $499,010 in increases in various other expenditure line items and to reduce $499,010 in other expenditure line items in order to cover projected expenditures as presented.
Discussion.
B, cafeteria amendment. This amendment adds $50,000 to the line for cafeteria workers and $2,239 in related benefits. It ensures that there will be enough funding to cover the summer nutrition feeding program. No additional funds are involved. Existing budgeted items are being used. Recommend that you amend the 2012 budget by $52,239 for cafeteria workers and related benefits, and to fund the amendment by relocating other labor and benefit lines as presented.
Discussion.
Falls into that category of unfunded mandate or underfunded.
Would you say, Jeff?
It's kind of a break even.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think we skipped number 4 above that.
You know what, I'm
Or-
refresh mine, and I, for
Okay.
some reason, I'm not picking it
I
up.
don't know if I have-
helped Mr. Gill refresh.
Yeah, I still didn't refresh.
Okay.
4 is amendment moves $483,405 from the regular education textbook budget to vocational textbook budget so that the vocational textbook adoption can be charged to the proper line in the budget. This amendment just reallocates already budgeted textbook funds and does not impact the regular education textbook purchase, and we'll recommend that you do that.
Any discussion on that one? Okay, 15.
Transportation, A, per section 8 of the bus contract, which covers assignability of a contract from the contract holder to another individual. The Transportation Department has received a request from Lee Cole, contractor of bus 173, dated May the 23rd, 2012. Mr. Cole is requesting his contract be assigned to his father-in-law, Lowell Duke, contractor of bus 125, due to his commitment and involvement in other activities. The letter from Mr. Cole requesting the bus contract be transferred to Mr. Duke is presented. Section 8, Part B of the contract states, under special circumstances deemed sufficiently unusual to warrant approving an assignment of the contract, the board may at its discretion approve an assignment of the contract. Therefore, the board must decide if this request meets the contract language and approve or deny the request.
Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Mike or Angel One, y'all want to speak to that?
As you can read from the a tab, Mr. Cole, father-in-law, Lowell Duke, owns the bus, but it's in Lee Cole's name as far as the contract is concerned. And he's had it for quite some time. And basically, he wants to give it to his daddy, or his father-in-law. And what we need to determine is, are we gonna allow those situations where they wanna get out of the business and be able to assign it to somebody they wanna assign it to? Contract allows them to do it if there's special circumstances, death in the family, health issues, things of that nature. Based upon his letter, none of those situations seem to apply. However, he sent us the letter, and I'm bringing it to the board because I told him I'd do so.
Okay, but it sounds like there has been some sort of special circumstance in cases where we've allowed this, right? I mean, as I recall, it's
There've
all-
been 2 or 3 circumstances.
Sure,
and
we've
there's
got
one
several.
listed
In fact, there's
Yeah,
another one
right.
coming up next.
Yeah.
We also discussed that, you know, we do have a waiting list for contracts when people don't want to carry the bus, and you might do damage to future people that are interested if they see bus routes are just being passed from one to the other for situations that aren't special circumstances.
Correct. Discussion on this issue, it's something we need to think about.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the point I was thinking through. I mean, if we broaden this so far, I mean, it will never get out of the hands of whoever originally had the contract. It'll be passed from A to B to B to C to C to D, for whatever reason they choose to do it. If we want to make it that broad, I guess it's in our discretion to do so. This is what we have to think about.
Other discussion?
The nature of the priority list, it seems to have, different, sections and such. Is there a priority list for this particular route, and would there be someone who we would contact?
Well, the contracts, the priority list don't have anything to do with the route of the contract. The list of people who are eligible to get a contract takes whatever contract is available at that particular time. They can pick if there's several. If there's only one, then that's their choice.
Excuse me.
help me understand then, what is a first priority, second priority, third priority? How does that work?
Okay. First priority list is for those individual drivers that have been driving for one full school year that are not contractors now. The second priority list are those individuals who are sub-drivers or part-time drivers that have been driving for one full school year but are not contractors. The third list is for those who have been offered the opportunity to be a contractor, but for whatever reason turned it down. Financial, it wasn't right for them. It wasn't the contract that they wanted, the route with those that were available. And so then the fourth contract list, priority list, is for those contractors who have a bus, up to six contracts, that we had a lottery drawing and put them in order based upon how we drew those names, and we do that once a year. And then, once we go through the first, second, and third, then we get to the fourth. And then that's how we fulfill the contract.
So it would be fair to say there are a lot of people waiting.
There were quite a few on the fourth, I think 65.
Other discussion? Okay,
Is there,
oh, go ahead.
do you have a recommendation? What would be your wish?
My recommendation is that we would not approve.
Okay. Is there,
And that's because it doesn't fit
Right.
from our perspective, it doesn't fit the language of the contract, which is special circumstances.
is there a legal opinion as well that would
No, I
weigh
think
in?
the reason that we put it on the agenda like we did is because when we contemplated this language in the contract, and we added that language because there were some circumstances that came up, and I think the board members felt like we ought to be able to do something when those things happen, but this is not what, I don't think this is what we contemplated when we put that language in, so.
Yeah, we have spent a lot of time over the years on this issue, and I think we've got it in a situation where we're pretty happy with it. I'm not sure we want to upset the apple cart at this stage.
Just the same, I appreciate the staff for bringing it to the board. And I feel good about going into tomorrow night and the presentation, understand it.
Good. B?
Per Section 8 of the bus contract, which covers assignability of a contract from the contract holder to another individual, Transportation Department has received a request from James P. Baltimore, contractor of bus 34 and 42. Mr. James P. Baltimore's father was Pete Baltimore, contractor of 44 from 1962 to 2012. He passed away on May 16, 2012. Mr. Baltimore has taken care of bus 44 for the past 11 years, providing drivers and maintenance. A letter requesting the bus be transferred from James P. Baltimore is presented, and we recommend that you approve the contract for bus 44 to be transferred from Pete Baltimore to James Baltimore effective immediately.
Discussion. C?
Bus contractor list pursuant to policy 141, bus contractor award procedure. The new contractor list for 2012-13 school year are presented. These four lists: first priority regular bus drivers, second priority part-time or sub-drivers, third priority those who have turned down the opportunity, and a fourth list, those who currently own one or more contracts, are for approval in order to facilitate the awarding of new bus contracts on a timely basis for the beginning of the new school year and thereafter as contracts are turned into the Transportation Department throughout the year. And we'll recommend that you approve the potential first, second, third priority contractor list and the fourth list of current contractors for 2012-13.
Discussion. Tom?
I think this fourth list speaks volumes, because those are all contractors. And they're seeking another contract. So it tells me that their current contract must be a pretty good contract for them. I'm sure there's some insurance issues, there's some radio issues for the here and there, but it's by that list, I think that's an indication of, out of, what do we have, Mr. Snell? 222 buses, and several of those buses are already owned by the contractors that have more than one. And this is a sizable percentage of current contractors that are showing their stamp of approval.
And when you consider people like, who was it, Williamson County was desperate to find drivers not too long ago, and Metro too, I think you got a working system.
I agree, Mr. Gill. I think that's a lot to be said for private contractors and giving them a contract that they can live with.
Other discussion?
Just jumped to 17.
I'm thinking there might be some heated debate over 16. Let me just say, I think you all know about, I know you all know about the naming of the gym in Mr. Gill's honor, and so we'll need to vote on that tomorrow night.
Can I commend Ms. Michaels? I think she ought to be in charge of the CIA. I mean, she kept that under wraps
She
as
did.
well as anybody, I think, so. Very, very well done, Ms. Michaels. Well deserved, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, appreciate it.
17.
Approval of non-renewal for non-tenured teachers. The board must authorize the director of schools' recommendation for non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. Recommend that you authorize the director of schools' recommendation for additional non-renewal of non-tenured teachers at the conclusion of the 11-12 school year.
So some names have been added to this?
Yeah,
Is
there's
this why
been
we
two
have it
names,
here?
right, Paula?
Yes, sir, if you remember, we had a reduction in force brought to the board, and we found a way not to do that with teachers that have been in the system for a long time. We identified 2 positions of teachers who were not tenured and opted to do that instead.
So it was the non-tenured CTE teachers.
Correct.
Yes.
Was everybody in that category? And were there only 2 people in that category of non-tenured
Those were the only
CTE?
2 positions that we could identify that were non-tenured that would help us not to do the reduction in force.
Discussion? 18.
Dismissal of a tenured teacher. The board has been provided with a memorandum containing charges against Sybil Tyson Rich, who is a teacher tenured with the board. Ms. Rich has been suspended without pay pending board action. The board sustains these charges. Ms. Rich will be presented with a copy of the charge and a statement of her rights under Tennessee law. And we recommend that you sustain the charges against Ms. Rich as presented.
Discussion? Obviously, if you haven't had a chance to read that, please do so by tomorrow. 19.
Executive committee approvals, and this is really for information only. The Rutherford County School Board Executive Committee approved on May 16, 2012, the emergency purchase of a used Toro Realmaster lawnmower from Blackman High School at a cost of $18,100 from Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation Incorporated, to be funded by Blackman High School. And the second one was Rutherford County School Board Executive Committee approved on May 30, 2012, the emergency purchase of 1 air-cooled condensing unit for Laverne High School. Bid was awarded to Mechanical Resources Group with a bid of $18,895 to be funded from the Maintenance Department.
And comment on those. 20. That's sort of our deal, isn't it? I think we're all familiar with this. We had Mr. Bennett come last month sometime, right? Joyce?
Yes.
And this is the evaluation that he proposed. So tomorrow, and we really need to approve it tomorrow.
Right.
So if you have changes or points you want to discuss tomorrow or tonight, either way. But in terms of discussion, we can do that now, but if you want to make any changes, tomorrow night is your chance. Anybody have anything to say about that at this stage?
Has there been any major changes since other presentation, Brian, on that?
No, this is the document that we saw
Okay, I was
back in
thinking
May.
the same, I didn't know if
Yeah.
any changes.
Okay, general discussion. Aaron?
Pardon me for going backwards, but I don't want to steal the thunder from number 8, the United Way donation for school walking tracks, but it's so impressive. What was the process? Maybe you'll cover that tomorrow, but it's kind of the nuts and bolts of this. How did we manage to get into this? And I just think it's an outstanding accomplishment.
Of course, James works directly with United Way, and we've been, very active in raising funds for United Way, to the point where we've been recognized multiple times, right, James? And I think Ms. Stitzel had requested some grant money, and I'm sure pursuant to their loyalty back to us, they recognized the good of the request and granted it.
Outstanding.
They have identified the schools, right?
I'm not sure. Do you know?
They have.
Yeah.
The actual tracks have already been built. It was a partnership between the United Way, Coordinated School Health, and the Tissue Concrete Program.
I remember.
So
That's right.
we built several tracks this year, but the United Way specifically provided funding for 2 of those completely.
Which schools were they?
Roxbury Elementary School got one, Fad got one, and Smyrna Middle got one. I'm not sure which ones exactly were funded by the United Way, but we'll know that tomorrow night. It'll be part of the presentation.
And that was the pervious concrete, right?
That's correct.
That's right.
That's right.
You just wanted to get that in there?
I like to use the word pervious whenever I can.
Yeah.
Can you spell it?
I also had a question about earning high school credits before 9th grade. How many high school credits can we earn before 9th grade? We've talked tonight about a half credit that we can get. Can we get more than that?
Usually algebra 1 in geometry, most would be 2, if they happen to be a student taking this, it might be 2 and a half. I can't think of the case.
I think for some of our higher achieving students, I think that opportunity is something we really need to highlight, and it gives them that flexibility that they want so badly in high school to be able to take the extracurricular activities and such. And maybe a lot of middle schoolers aren't necessarily thinking about that when they're making course selections and already getting credit hours, but it's certainly important.
Thank you.
What happens when a child takes those 2 courses in the 8th grade or 7th, 8th grade, and then they get to high school and they have to have 4 maths and 4 sciences? I mean, we have plenty of offerings to take care of that.
There have been a few that have actually gone to MGSU to pick up another, maybe a course in there. That's rare. Most can, but there's been a handful that we've actually sent to MGSU. We had some Spectrum students that we actually paid for to attend MGSU to do that.
So is that to say then that an 8th grade Algebra 1 doesn't count as one of the 4?
It does not. You have to have one each year of high school, even if you take it ahead.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So what would you say, so if you had algebra 1 geometry, you go with algebra 2, advanced math 3, calculus, statistics,
Trigonometry, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a number of offerings.
Could be a
Bridge math?
Well, it's really one of the things that, to me, middle school counselors need to be really good about advising when they go through that process, because if you've got a student that does not choose to go 6 years of math, which is really what you're talking about, and they start that progression, even though they're maybe sharp enough to do it as a 7th grader, it can be problematic when you get to a junior or senior that's having to take a math class maybe they're not able to do. I mean, I've seen that happen before. And I don't think, very much like yourself, they don't understand that doesn't count toward the 4. They do have to take that, math, they do have to take a math course, which means if they start there, you've got to go up the ladder. You can't come backwards. You can't come back and take pre-algebra as a senior.
Right.
Every parent now signs a form with this information, we explain it, because of this, when we started the 4 years. So every parent now is to read this, they'll still be required, and they sign off, and understand that.
Would it be appropriate for us to petition the Department of Education to reconsider allowing those junior high math credits to count against the 4 years?
I can tell you why the state board, you and me,
No, go ahead, Don,
much of this was driven by ACT and some other tests in high school. That the statistics clearly was showing that when students took another math course in their 4th year of high school, they scored higher on ACT, their performance was higher, and their college, they did better when they got to college. And so the State Board of Education debated exactly what you're talking about, but because of those factors, fell on the side they will have to have one math each year. I'm telling you, we run into things like somebody taking it in summer school. Still gotta have 4 years of your 4 years of, because summer school counts a part of the prior year. So if you take it in summer school an extra year, you may have to take another one when you hit fall. So it's very, very rigid.
Well, you know, I know it presents a lot of issues, but on the other hand, aren't we in favor of more math education? Because I don't have to take it. I mean, so, I see your problem. It presents some
Well,
issues.
to me, I think to me, as a former principal that dealt with these kind of things, I think we have to make sure that people aren't doing it from a vanity standpoint, which is a lot of times, I think their kids are rushed in the algebra class as a 7th grader simply because that's what mom and dad want to be able to brag about in church, as opposed to, is that the best thing for the kid? And, I had 2 children that have done okay, that did their progression from the 9th grade up. And I think for many people, that's really the right path to go, unless you have some reason to take 6 years of math. And I think we have that opportunity to do it, but I'm glad to hear we're signing off on that. People need to understand the process as opposed to just doing it because, well, my kid's smart enough to take algebra as a 7th grader. But is it still the right thing to do?
We take the Explore test and their TCAP test from the prior year. We have a cut percentage that they should score in order to be eligible. So we have some that really not eligible. You have virtually 100% passage, but it still comes to about 10% of our students that will get one of those math courses before they in high school. With 100% passage, even on the new test.
I couldn't quite hear you. You said there's 10% who,
Roughly 10% of our students.
take
We have
algebra
about
one in middle
3,000 students, roughly 300 each year will have completed one or more maths.
as long as we tell the families on the front end, here are the rules and be prepared for something in your senior year of high school, I don't have a problem.
Well, is that tied to the American Diploma Project that became the Tennessee Diploma Project? Was that part of that formula, the 4 years of math? and
Yeah, that was part of the American
science?
Diploma
Okay.
Project.
Because I think when the state tied their horse to that wagon, you have to stay that course. So
Yeah.
I don't think even if we made application to the state board, we've already committed to that as a state, so.
Aaron?
One other thing, when we went to the National School Board Convention, one of the sessions that I sat in on was about some non-standard funding. And as budgets get tighter and tighter, I thought I would bring this back before the board just for some discussion. And I've mentioned it a time or two in personal conversations, and I've been told, wow, Aaron, be careful with that, don't go there. But I'm gonna throw it out there anyway, just to talk about. Cell phone towers, and that they be positioned on school property. And in this session that they had there, they were talking about it and said what a perfect application it was to put these above high school light standards. And as we talked about the lights at Siegel High School, it just brought it to mind, and I thought I might throw it out there. There are obvious community objections that come up, be they the electromagnetic, waves and those kind of things, or just aesthetics and all of those kind of things. But just the same, there's such an opportunity there, and a number of school systems are taking advantage of it. And I understand from the casual conversations that I've had that we have considered it in the past. I wonder, is it more palatable to the general public now, and it's a part of life to see those around us, that we might consider it again?
I think I'd answer that. The last time we had discussion on that was with Wilson Elementary, and I know the people came out. So with respect to,
Mob, I think.
yeah, I mean, it might, it'd be more palatable to the people that weren't having it put in their backyard than it is the ones that are. I think anytime you try to pursue that, I think you're gonna have opposition from the local residents. Now, whether it's just or not, I don't know, that's for the board to decide. We also, over the years, have talked about advertising on school buses, and there may even been another thing or two that we discussed to generate additional funds. But Gary, do you remember what kind of money would be generated by putting a cell phone tower on a school? Like we had that at,
I believe the maximum was $2,200 a month.
it's not a big amount of money.
We discussed doing it at Oakland too on some sort, or is there one at Oakland?
I thought we discussed something
On one of their,
station.
yeah, on their stadium lights. Did we ever do that at Oakland?
We approved, the board approved the contract. We received the first $100 from them for initiating the contract, and then they never put a tower up. So we, after 3 years, we ignored the contract.
Yeah. Well, we cleared $100.
I'll say that.
Where is that $100?
Mr. Sandvik can answer.
I'll have to get his laptop. I mean, it's yeah. We heard from both parents and then the folks who had houses around the school who were concerned, so. Anybody else want to comment on the cell phone towers? I don't see much excitement over that prospect, but. Okay, other discussion? We will see you tomorrow night. We're adjourned.